Terminal C at LAX feels different when you're walking through it knowing you've lost everything that matters. The same gates, the same crowds, the same announcement voices echoing off the walls. But now, I'm just another flight attendant, pulling her carry-on past happy couples heading off on vacations I'll never take with Cesar. 3 weeks since he found out about the ticket. 3 weeks since he looked at me like I was a stranger wearing his girlfriend's face and said, "We're done." 3 weeks of him not answering my texts, my calls, my desperate voice notes begging him to understand that Mateo meant nothing, that it was just a favor, that he was overreacting to something so small it shouldn't even matter. Except it mattered. It mattered because of all the other lies that came before it. All the other times I'd smiled and promised to be honest while crossing my fingers behind my back, like a child who thinks crossing her fingers makes the lie not count. I should be in Santa Ana right now. Should be in Cesar's apartment making Sunday dinner, listening to him talk about code reviews and deployment schedules, pretending to understand when he explained why Python was better than Java. Instead, I'm heading to another red-eyed in Newark, another night of serving drinks to businessmen who look at my legs instead of my face, another hotel room where I'll check my phone every 5 minutes hoping to see his name. But let me go back. Let me tell you how a few little white lies and one airplane ticket destroyed the best relationship I ever had. How I convinced myself that what Cesar didn't know couldn't hurt him, right up until it hurt us both so badly there was nothing left to save. Cesar and I met through a dating app, which should have been my first clue that keeping secrets would be harder than with the guys I usually dated. Tech guys notice things. They pay attention to patterns, inconsistencies, the little glitches in your story that don't quite add up. But in the beginning, I thought I'd hit the jackpot 34 senior software developer at a startup in Irvine, owned his own condo, had his life together in ways the pilots and bartenders I usually went for never did. Our first date was coffee in downtown Santa Ana. I wore my good jeans, the ones that made my ass look incredible, and a top that showed just enough cleavage to be interesting without looking desperate. He showed up in khakis and a button-down that screamed, "I write code for a living." But his smile was warm and his laugh came easy. And when he asked about my job, he actually listened to the answer. "A flight attendant," he said, eyes lighting up. "That must be amazing. All that travel?" "It has its moments. Though honestly, after a while, every hotel room starts to look the same." "Where's your favorite place you've been?" I told him about Tokyo, about the cherry blossoms, and the tiny bars in Golden Guy where they served whiskey older than both of us. He told me about the 6 months he'd spent working remotely from Bali, how he'd coded during the day and surfed every evening until the sun went down. We talked for 3 hours until the coffee shop started stacking chairs around us. "I'd really like to see you again," he said as we walked to our cars. "Even with the crazy schedule? I'm gone half the month." "We'll figure it out. I'm good with logistics. It's kind of my job." That should have been my warning. A man who was good with logistics would notice when the logistics didn't add up. But I was 29 and tired of dating men who thought commitment meant adding me on Instagram. Cesar was different. He texted good morning even when I was in a different time zone. He picked me up from LAX at midnight without complaining. He introduced me to his friends, his coworkers, even his mother. After 3 months, he gave me a key to his place. After 6 months, we were talking about the future like it was a given that we'd be in it together. The long-distance part was hard, but we made it work. I'd send him selfies from different cities. He'd FaceTime me during his lunch breaks. We had a shared calendar where I'd input my flight schedules, so he always knew where I was. It felt like playing house in the best way, like we were building something real despite the miles between us. The problem started with Mateo. I need to explain about Mateo because without him, none of this makes sense. Mateo Reyes was part of my past. I'd carefully edited out when Cesar asked about my dating history. We'd met 2 years before Cesar, when I was fresh out of a messy breakup and making questionable decisions at hotel bars. He was passing through LAX, missed his connection, and ended up at the airport Marriott where my crew was staying, tall, finance guy from Miami, wearing a wedding ring he didn't try to hide. You're married, I'd said when he offered to buy me another drink. Separated, he'd replied. Papers filed and everything. I should have walked away. Should have gone up to my room and watched Netflix like a responsible adult. Instead, I let him buy me that drink, then another, then followed him up to his room where we did things that would make Cesar sick if he knew. The next morning, Mateo was gone, leaving only a business card and the lingering smell of his cologne. I thought that was the end of it. A one-night mistake with a man whose last name I couldn't even pronounce right. But Mateo had my number, and Mateo was persistent texts every few weeks, just checking in. Pictures from his travels, funny memes that made me smile despite myself. When I started dating Cesar, I knew I should block him, should cut that tie clean. But Mateo was harmless, I told myself. Just a friend now, ancient history. Except I never told Cesar about the history part. The first real lie came 4 months into dating Cesar. We were having dinner at his place, Thai food from his favorite spot, when my phone buzzed. Mateo's name popped up on the screen. Just a funny video, nothing important. But Cesar noticed me flip the phone face down. "Who was that?" he asked, not suspicious, just curious. "Just a friend from work." "Yeah? Which crew?" The lie rolled off my tongue so easily. "Oh, you don't know him. Based out of Dallas." Him. I'd admitted it was a him, which felt honest even as I lied about everything else. Cesar went back to his pad thai, and I changed the subject to his upcoming product launch. That's how easy it was to start. One small lie to avoid a complicated conversation about a past that didn't matter anymore. Except it did matter, because lies are like carry-on bags. Once you start pulling them behind you, they get heavier with every step. The second lie came 2 months later. Mateo was passing through LAX again, asked if I wanted to grab coffee between flights. Just coffee, just catching up. What was the harm? I was in love with Cesar. Mateo was just a guy I'd made a mistake with once. We could be adults about it. I didn't tell Cesar about the coffee. Didn't lie exactly, just didn't mention it when he asked about my day. The omission felt smaller than an actual lie, like diet deception, less calories, same great taste. But Cesar had this way of asking follow-up questions that made keeping track of my edits exhausting. "How was the flight to Dallas?" he'd ask. "Fine, usual crowd." "Did you get to see your friend while you were there? The one from the Dallas crew?" Shit. I'd forgotten I'd assigned Mateo to Dallas in my fictional universe. "No, different schedules this time." "That's too bad. Would be nice to meet some of your work friends." The guilt sat in my stomach like airplane food, but I pushed through it. Cesar didn't need to know about Mateo. It would just complicate things. Make him jealous for no reason. I was protecting our relationship, really. Protecting him from unnecessary worry. By the time Cesar gave me his airline buddy passes, I was juggling so many small deceptions, I needed a spreadsheet to keep them straight. 10 free flights a year, his company's perk for senior developers, and he wanted me to have them all. "I love you too," Cesar said, handing me the confirmation codes. "This way you can come home more on your days off, or we can take trips together without waiting for your non-rev status to clear." I kissed him then, hard and grateful, because who does that? Who gives his girlfriend of 8 months something worth thousands of dollars without batting an eye? Cesar did. Because Cesar trusted me. Because in Cesar's world, people didn't lie about ex-hookups and secret coffee dates and texts they deleted before their boyfriend could see them. The trust should have been enough to make me come clean. Should have been the wake-up call that I needed to be the woman he thought I was. Instead, I took those buddy passes and promised myself I'd be better going forward. No more Mateo, no more lies. Clean slate. That lasted exactly 2 months. October in Miami, a 3-day trip that turned into 4 when weather shut down half the eastern seaboard. I was stuck at the airport hotel, bored and scrolling Instagram, when Mateo texted, "Heard you're in town. Dinner?" I should have said no. Should have blocked him right then. But I was annoyed with Cesar for canceling our weekend plans to work on some emergency server issue, And Matteo was there and interested and familiar in a way that felt dangerously comfortable. "Just dinner," I texted back. Dinner turned into drinks. Drinks turned into his hotel room. His hotel room turned into me crying in the Uber back to my hotel at 3 a.m., knowing I'd just destroyed everything good in my life for a man who still wouldn't take off his wedding ring while he fucked me. I flew home the next day, hating myself so much I could barely look passengers in the eye. Cesar picked me up from the airport like always, kissed me hello, asked about my trip. I smiled and lied and hated myself more with every word. "You okay?" he asked as we drove back to his place. "You seem off." "Just tired, long trip." "Want to talk about it?" "Nothing to talk about, just work stuff." He reached over and took my hand, squeezed it gently. "You know you can tell me anything, right? Whatever it is." The confession sat on my tongue like turbulence, ready to shake everything apart. But I swallowed it down. Telling him would only hurt him. It was one mistake. One stupid, horrible mistake that would never happen again. Better to carry the guilt myself than destroy what we had. Except guilt is like fog. It seeps into everything, makes it hard to see straight. I started picking fights over nothing, pushing Cesar away because being close to him made me feel like a fraud. He tried to be patient, tried to understand why his loving girlfriend had suddenly become a stranger who flinched when he touched her. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked one night after I'd snapped at him for suggesting we move in together. "No, I need space." "Space from what? From me?" "From everything. This is moving too fast." "We've been together almost a year, Angeline. How is that too fast?" I didn't have an answer that didn't involve telling him the truth, so I just shrugged and changed the subject and watched something die a little in his eyes. That's when Matteo started pushing for more. The guilt was eating me alive, and somehow he knew it. Maybe cheaters can smell it on each other, like pheromones of bad decisions. He started texting more frequently, suggesting we could be something real if I just gave him a chance. "I'm leaving my wife," he told me during a phone call I should never have answered. "You've been saying that for 2 years. This time I mean it. My lawyer says the papers will be final by January." "I'm with someone, Matteo." "Someone who doesn't know the real you, not like I do." The real me. Like being a cheater was my authentic self, and everything else was just pretend. But maybe he was right. Maybe this was who I really was. Someone who couldn't be satisfied with good because I was always looking for better, even when better was just different, just dangerous, just wrong. December came with holiday parties and family gatherings where I had to pretend everything was fine. Cesar's mom taught me to make tamales, folding me into their Christmas traditions like I belonged there. His sister asked when we were getting engaged, and I laughed it off while Cesar just smiled and said, "Soon, hopefully." The words sat between us the rest of the night. Soon. Like we had a future. Like I hadn't already destroyed it with my lies and my need for attention from men who weren't worth losing him over. New Year's Eve, we watched fireworks from his balcony, and he told me he loved me. Not for the first time, but with a weight that felt like a question. "I love you too," I said, and meant it, which somehow made everything worse. January brought the conversation that changed everything. We were making dinner, domestically peaceful in his kitchen, when he mentioned planning a trip. I was thinking we could use some of those buddy passes, go somewhere neither of us has been. Maybe Eastern Europe? Prague is supposed to be beautiful in spring. "Sounds perfect," I said, stirring pasta sauce and thinking maybe we could make it work. Maybe I could bury the past deep enough that it would never surface. "How many passes do you have left?" he asked. "I know you used a couple visiting your mom." I'd used 3 visiting my mom, 1 flying to a bachelorette party in Vegas, and one I'd given to Matteo when he'd begged for a favor, when his credit cards were maxed from his divorce lawyer and he needed to get to New York for a custody hearing, just a ticket, just helping a friend. "I think I have 5 left," I lied, checking the sauce like it required my complete attention. Perfect. We can do a long weekend in Prague and still have some left over for summer. That night, he pulled up flights on his laptop, comparing dates and times with the focus he usually reserved for debugging code. I sat beside him on the couch, my phone burning in my pocket with texts from Matteo thanking me again for the ticket, saying he owed me dinner next time he was in LA. Of course, he never paid me back. Just another IOU from a man who only called when he needed something. "What about these dates?" Cesar asked, showing me the screen. "I can take time off the first week of April." "Let me check my schedule," I said, pulling out my phone. Matteo's texts stared up at me. I deleted them quickly, but not quickly enough. "Everything okay?" Cesar asked. "Yeah, just checking my trips." But he was looking at me differently now. That debugging look, like I was a problem to solve. "Actually, can I see the Buddy Pass account? I want to check if there are any blackout dates for international flights." My heart stopped. "I don't have the login on my phone." "No problem, I'll just pull it up on my laptop. What's the confirmation number?" "It's in my email. I'll forward it to you later." "Or we can just log into your email now. Easier to plan if we can see everything." He was already opening Gmail, so helpful, so efficient. I watched him type in the search bar, looking for the airline's emails, and knew my time was up. "Wait," I said. "There's something I need to tell you." He stopped typing, hands frozen over the keyboard. "Okay." I gave one of the passes to a friend, someone who needed help." "Okay," he said again, but his voice was different now, careful. "Which friend?" "Someone from before us. He was in a bind with his divorce and—" "He?" "It's not like that. We're just friends." "Friends you never mentioned? Friends who need our flight passes?" "Your flight passes," I corrected without thinking. His face went very still. "Right, my flight passes that I gave to you, to use for us." "Cesar, it was just one ticket. He paid me back." Another lie, automatic as breathing. "I don't care about the money, Angeline. I care that you gave away something I gave you without even mentioning it. I care that this friend apparently exists in some secret part of your life I know nothing about." "It's not a secret. I didn't think it was important. Important enough to give him a $1,000 ticket." "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like? Help me understand." But I couldn't explain Matteo without explaining the coffee dates and the texts and the night in Miami. Couldn't make him understand that it meant nothing without admitting there was something to mean nothing about. "His name is Matteo," I said finally. "We dated briefly before I met you. He reached out when he was going through his divorce, and I felt bad. It was just a favor." "When did he reach out?" "A few months ago." "Months? You've been talking to your ex for months?" "We're friends. That's all." "Friends you hide from me." "I wasn't hiding." "What else?" He closed the laptop, turned to face me fully. "What else haven't you told me?" "Nothing." "Cesar, please. You're making this into something it's not." "Am I? Then show me. Show me these friendly texts. Show me where you told him about me, about us. Show me where you established boundaries like someone in a committed relationship would." I couldn't, because those texts didn't exist, because I'd deleted every conversation, knowing how they'd look to outside eyes. "I deleted them," I admitted, "but only because you knew they were inappropriate." "No, because I knew you'd react like this, get jealous over nothing." "I'm not jealous, Angeline. I'm confused. I'm hurt. I'm wondering what else you've deleted, what else you've hidden because you thought I'd react badly to the truth." "Nothing." "God, why are you being like this? It was one ticket." But he was already pulling up the Buddy Pass account on his phone, scrolling through the history with that debugging focus I'd once found endearing. I watched him find Matteo's name, saw his face change as he recognized the New York flight happened the same weekend I'd supposedly been visiting my mom in Phoenix. "You lied about visiting your mother." It wasn't a question. I could see him rebuilding our entire relationship in his head, looking for other glitches, other inconsistencies. I did visit her. I flew back through New York. When were you going to mention that? When were you going to tell me you were meeting your ex? I didn't meet him. He was just on the same flight. The flight you gave him, using the passes I gave you, to help him with his divorce that you knew all about because you've been talking for months. When he put it like that, it sounded exactly as bad as it was. Cesar, please, let me explain. I'm listening. But what could I say? That Mateo meant nothing while I was giving him $1,000 tickets? That I loved Cesar while I was lying to his face? That I wanted a future with him while I was keeping one foot in the past? I fucked up, I said finally. I know I did, but it's over now. I'll block him. I'll never talk to him again. Why didn't you block him the day we met? Why didn't you tell me about him from the beginning? Because I was embarrassed. He's married, Cesar. I had a thing with a married man. I didn't want you to know that about me. So you lied instead, made me think you were someone else. I am someone else. I'm not that person anymore. No? Then why is he still in your life? Why are you still doing favors for him? Why are you still deleting texts and lying about where you've been? I started crying then. Ugly tears that ruined my makeup and made my nose run. But Cesar didn't comfort me, didn't pull me close and tell me it would be okay. He just sat there, watching me fall apart like he was watching a stranger. I need you to leave, he said quietly. What? I need space to think. Please go. Cesar, don't do this. We can work through it. Couples therapy or... Angeline, please, just go. I went. Drove home to my apartment in Long Beach through tears that made the freeway lights blur into stars. My roommate was gone for the night, so I sat on my bed and did what I always did when I'd fucked up my life. I texted Mateo. Cesar found out about the ticket. We had a huge fight. His response came quickly. I'm sorry, babe. You know I appreciate what you did. He'll get over it. I don't think he will. Then maybe it's a sign. You and me, we make sense. We understand each other. You're married, Mateo. Not for much longer. And even if I was, you never seemed to mind before. The words hit like turbulence. He was right. I'd never minded enough to stay away. Never respected my own relationship enough to shut him down completely. And now I'd lost everything for a man who saw me as convenient, not special. As someone who would always be there when he needed something, whether it was a warm body in a hotel room or a free ticket to New York. I didn't respond. Instead, I called Cesar, straight to voicemail, texted him, read but no response. Showed up at his place the next morning with coffee and apologies. He answered the door looking like he hadn't slept. Did you sleep with him? The question caught me off guard. What? Mateo, did you sleep with him since we've been together? The lie was automatic. No, God, no. Cesar, I would never... In Miami, October, when you came home different. I didn't see it then, but I do now. I don't know how he knew. Maybe cheaters do smell different. Maybe the guilt had been written on my face for months. Maybe he'd always suspected, and I'd just finally given him enough rope to hang me with. It didn't mean anything, I whispered. He laughed then, not a happy sound. Funny how things that don't mean anything seem to destroy everything that does. It was one mistake, one stupid drunk mistake. Was it? Or was it just the one time you got caught? Cesar, please, I love you. You have to know that. I don't know anything anymore. I don't know who you are. This person who lies and cheats and sneaks around. That's not the woman I fell in love with. Yes, it is. No. I'm still me. I just made some bad choices. Choices, plural. This wasn't one mistake, Angeline. This was months of deception. Months of looking me in the eye and lying. Months of letting me plan a future with someone who doesn't exist. I do exist. I'm right here, fighting for us. There is no us, not anymore. Don't say that. Please, I'll do anything. Therapy, counseling, whatever you need. What I need is to be with someone I can trust, and that's never going to be you again. He closed the door then, gently, which somehow made it worse than if he'd slammed it. I stood there for longer than I should have, hoping he'd change his mind, hoping I'd wake up from this nightmare where I'd destroyed the best thing in my life for hotel sex with a man who wouldn't leave his wife. But this wasn't a nightmare. This was just consequences. The logical result of thinking I could have my cake and eat it too, keep my good boyfriend and my bad habit, maintain my image as the perfect girlfriend while acting like I was single whenever it suited me. I tried everything over the next weeks. Showed up at his office with lunch, sent flowers, wrote long emails explaining how sorry I was, how I'd change, how we could start fresh. He never responded. When I went to his place, the locks had been changed. When I called from different numbers, he blocked those too. Finally, desperate, I reached out to his sister on Instagram, told her I needed closure, just one conversation to apologize properly. Her response was short and devastating. He's moving on, Angeline. You should too. P.S. He's seeing someone from his cycling group. She seems nice. Honest? Honest. The word burned like acid. Someone who didn't lie about ex-lovers and secret meetings and nights in Miami hotels. Someone who didn't delete texts or give away gifts meant for building a future together. Someone who wasn't me. I blocked Mateo then. 3 weeks too late to matter, but I did it. He tried calling from other numbers, showing up at LAX when he knew I'd be working, but I was done. Done being the kind of woman who would throw away real love for attention that meant nothing. Done being the person Cesar was right to leave. The problem with being done is that it doesn't undo what's already been done. Cesar is with his honest cyclist now. Probably taking her to Prague with the buddy passes I didn't use, planning the future I threw away. Sometimes I Instagram stalk her, this woman who gets to wake up next to him because she knows how to tell the truth. She's pretty in that natural way that doesn't need makeup, posts pictures of sunrise bike rides and healthy smoothies. The kind of woman who probably never dated married men or lied about where she was or who she was with. The kind of woman Cesar deserved all along. My therapist says I need to forgive myself, that everyone makes mistakes, and the important thing is learning from them. But how do you forgive yourself for being exactly the person your ex said you were? How do you move forward when moving forward means accepting that you're the villain in your own love story? You're not a villain, she insists during our sessions. You're human. You made poor choices, but that doesn't define your entire worth. But it does define my worth to the one person whose opinion mattered. And now he's building Sunday traditions with someone else, debugging her problems, giving her the kind of trust I lit on fire for a man who finally signed his divorce papers, but still hasn't asked me out for that dinner he owes me. Not that I'd go. That's the only lesson I've learned from this whole mess. That some bridges, once burned, light the way forward by showing you exactly what not to do. That some men, like Mateo, are meant to be mistakes you learn from, not patterns you repeat. That some loves, like what I had with Caesar, only come around once, and if you're stupid enough to gamble them away, you don't get another spin. So here I am, 30, single, flying back and forth across the country, serving drinks to strangers, and deleting dating apps as fast as I download them, because what's the point? I know what I'm capable of now. Know that given the chance, I'll sabotage anything good that comes my way. Cesar saw that before I did, saw that I was exactly the kind of woman his friends probably warned him about, the kind who can't be satisfied, can't be trusted, can't be saved. He made the logical choice, the right choice, the choice that hurt like hell but protected him from years of wondering what I was hiding, who I was texting, whether the stories I told were real or just another carefully edited version of a truth too ugly to share. I see him sometimes, around Santa Ana, at the farmer's market with his cyclist, laughing at something she said. At the coffee shop where we had our first date, working on his laptop like he used to when I'd surprise him on my days off. He looks good, happy, like a man who sleeps well at night knowing the woman next to him has nothing to hide. He saw me once, I think. Caught my eye across the parking lot at Whole Foods. For a second, I thought he might wave, might acknowledge our shared history. But he just turned away, helped his girlfriend load their groceries, and drove off in the Tesla he'd bought after his startup went public. The car we'd test-driven together, talking about road trips we'd never take. That's the worst part. Not that he's moved on, but that he's moved on so completely. Like I was a bug in his code that he fixed and forgot about. Like our year together was just something to debug and delete, leaving no trace in his operating system. But I'm still running that broken code, still waking up at 3 a.m. thinking I hear his alarm, still buying that Thai food from his favorite place, even though it tastes like regret now. Still checking my phone for texts that won't come from the one person whose messages I should have saved, instead of deleted. Mateo reached out last week. New number, same old story. His divorce is final. He's ready for something real. He misses what we had. I didn't respond, but I didn't block him either. Just stared at his words and wondered if this is what I'm destined for. These half-relationships with men who only want me when it's convenient. These almosts and maybes that never quite become anything real. Because real requires honesty, and honesty is the one thing I've proven I can't do. My roommate thinks I'm being too hard on myself. Says everyone has a past, everyone makes mistakes, everyone deserves a second chance. But she doesn't understand that some mistakes aren't just mistakes, they're revelations. Proof of who you really are underneath the makeup and the promises and the plans for Prague that will never happen now. I'm not the woman Cesar thought I was. I'm the woman he discovered I was. The liar, the cheater, the keeper of secrets that destroy good things. The flight attendant who flies away from problems instead of facing them. Who deletes evidence instead of being honest. Who gives away gifts meant for building a future, because I never really believed in that future anyway. If I had, I would have protected it. Would have blocked Mateo the day Cesar kissed me in that coffee shop parking lot. Would have confessed to the Miami mistake, and begged for forgiveness I might have actually gotten if I'd asked for it soon enough. Would have been the woman he saw when he looked at me, instead of the woman I really was. But I didn't. And now I'm here. 30,000 feet above somewhere middle America, serving vodka tonics to businessmen and thinking about Prague, about the trip we'll never take, the apartment we'll never share, the life we'll never build because I burned it all down for a man who wouldn't even leave his wife until I'd already lost everything that mattered. The captain announces our descent into Newark. Another city, another hotel, another night of wondering if Cesar ever thinks about me. If he ever misses what we had before I ruined it, if he ever wishes things had been different. But things weren't different. They were exactly what they were. I was exactly who I was. And he was exactly right to leave. That's the truth I'm finally learning to tell, even if it's 3 weeks too late to matter. The truth that Angeline Reyes, flight attendant from Long Beach, had real love and threw it away for nothing. Had a good man and lied to him until he had no choice but to see who she really was. The kind of woman who ends up alone in hotel rooms, deleting text messages from an ex-lover who still won't go away, wondering how many buddy passes she'd trade for one more chance at the life she had and lost.